infrastructure actually began in Africa. Africans began to, first of all, erect infrastructures before the white man came and saw. There was a wall called the Wall of Benin that was longer than the Wall of China. It was in Africa. The Temple of Lalibela was already in existence in Ethiopia before the white man came. The Mona Empire was already there before the white man came. And then the Mutasinga Lake was already there before the white man came and changed the name to Lake Albert. The Lalubeli Lake was already there before the white man came and saw the lake. A man called John Hanning Speck in the year 1858 saw the lake and then had to change the name to Lake Victoria. All these things were already in existence, meaning that Africans have already started inventing things before the white man came. And when they came and saw the invention of all this, they began to change the names so that the history will not demonstrate that Africans were actually the originators of civilization before they came. So if Africa could erect a wall without block and cement, and the wall became longer than the walls of Chinese, that means today we would have done more development to that wall than it was. Because that man those men who erected that wall without blocks and cement had given birth to children that would have developed it more better than it was. They came with education that will deprive us from reasoning, but keep reading. So our children had no more time to reason, to see that this thing was actually discovered by their ancestor. So they need to develop it. They no longer was allowed to develop. They were now putting in a cage to read. By so reading, you have deprived a child from the opportunity of reasoning. That is why today in Africa, we go to school to study and not to reason. At the end of the day, somebody will study what he can. He will end up not practicing one particular thing. Pharmacy. A pharmacist today studied pharmaceutical in the university for 6 years. After all said and done, 7 years has gone. But today, a pharmacist in Nigeria, in Africa, cannot produce single drug. When he set up his own pharmaceutical shop, he still goes to China to import drugs. He goes to India to import drugs. Meanwhile, the Chinese man or the Indian man that produces the drugs that is selling today did not study it in school. It was out of reasoning. So in 1884, when they sat in Berlin to discuss on how to colonize Africa, this time around the purpose was not to buy us as a slave and go, but to control us in our own house. And who instigated this idea of 1884 Berlin Conference to colonize Africa? Otto von Bismarck, a German man, who said, okay, my people, let us not fight among ourselves, quarrel among ourselves about this continent called Africa. Okay, let's come together and discuss on how to divide them so that we can share and everybody take his own. Do you understand? So Otto von Bismarck invited other European countries. They came and sat in Berlin in 1884 and then divided Africa into different parts. Britain took, France took, Belgium took, Portuguese took, Italy did not succeed, Spain did not too much succeed. Now those ones who succeeded came and sat. And why did Italy not succeed? Italy tried to take over Ethiopia. Ethiopia refused to be colonized by Italy, as you can see in the Battle of Adwa. In the Battle of Adwa, they fought a battle to make sure that this will not colonize us. That was why Ethiopia was the only country in Africa that was not colonized by the Europeans. And Ethiopia today does not use the same calendar that we use in Africa, they have 13 months calendar. And that their calendar is the correct one.
The original one, the Igbo people use.
Yes, the original one. And that one was ascertained through a woman's menstrual cycle. Some people think that a woman's menstrual cycle runs for 12 months. No, it runs for 13 months. And that is where nature gave Ethiopia the 13 calendar months, which Igbo people use. That is the truth one. Until the Europeans came and gave us 12 calendar months. And then they began their colonization struggle. Those who were colonized by the British, they call us Anglophone. Those who were colonized by the French, they call them Francophone. Burkina Faso, Togo, Mali, Burkina, Gabon, Cotonou, Benin Republic, Senegal, they call them the Francophones. I tell people, we are still slaves. As long as we continue bearing a white man name, we are still slaves. As long as we still bear European names, we are still slaves. As long as we are being taught, not in our own language, but in the language of the Europeans, we are still slaves. Like Bob Marley sang in a song, Redemption song, in the year 1980. And then he said, if you listen to the lyrics of that song, oh, pirate, yes, they rob I. Sold I to the merchant ship. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit. You understand? The minute they took I from the bottomless pit, he said, let us emancipate ourselves from this mental slavery. Only us can save ourselves from this slavery. So he has already started saying it. Countries began to gain independence. Liberia became the first country in Africa that gained her independence in the year 1848. If I'm not mistaken, 1847 or 1848. Before you know it, other countries began to follow suit. Nigeria gained their independence. Ghana gained her independence in the year 1857 through Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, brought independence in 1957. But there's one thing sweet about independence of Ghana from Kwame Nkrumah that he said about, which would have opened the eyes of every other politician or freedom fighter as at that time. He said, Ghana is free and will not be colonized again. But the independence of Ghana will mean nothing until the total liberation of Africans is achieved. Congo had their independence in 1961 through Patrick Lumumba. Nigeria got their independence in 1960 through Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and then Nnamdi Azikiwe. David Kaunde had their independence. So a lot of these people began to get independence. Now, on this independence, the Europeans were not happy that these people ascertained their independence. And on the struggle, these people who got independent for their countries have proclaimed and pronounced that these people who colonized us will no longer see us again to colonize. The Britain, the Europeans began to get angry and started plotting for the downfall of these people who said we will not see them again to capture. In May 24, 1963 in Addis Ababa, when 32 heads of states who have gotten independence at that time were in OAU meeting, then the Organization of African Unity was formed. And in that meeting, everybody was saying his or her opinion, of which Emperor Haile Selassie was the host, because it was held in Addis Ababa. Now, everybody had his or her speech. But one speech that I often refer to was that of Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, where he said, we are here today, 32 heads of state, thinking that we have gotten independent. But we must be aware that the colonial master is not asleep. They will come back if we do not unite as one. He said, let us not leave this place without one currency, without one passport, without one Central Africa, without one police, without one army. His father said that he don't care whether the capital will be in Ghana or not. That is not his problem. It can be anywhere. But let us not leave this place without one country, one currency. Because the united we are, the stronger we become.
Yeah.
The divided we are, the weaker we become. And then if we continue to be divided, these people will come again. And when they come this time around to take us, I may not be there when they will come again. You may not be there. None of us may be there when they will come again. So let us unite now or we perish.